Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. Today, I wanna talk about a topic that I've talked about before. I've made an entire video on it a couple of years ago, and that's the intricacies and the troubles of women and men rolling together. And I get questions about this all the time. I get comments about it all the time. Even though I feel like it's a topic that I've talked about a lot, it's just one of those things that people are always dealing with. And the more experience that I get, the more situations that I deal with, I develop new opinions and I develop new perspectives. And the more people that we get on this channel, there's just always new opinions and new perspectives floating around. So I feel like it's one of those topics amongst many others that we can continue to talk about because there's always going to be something new to add to it. Women and men rolling together. Now, of course, this video is going to come from a female's perspective, my perspective, and the question is also coming from a woman. So let's first address the question. Now, it's a little long, so we'll break it down into different parts. So the first part, this person just addressed that she's scared of asking guys to roll. So that's the main thing that we're going to be chatting about. As a woman, being scared, being afraid of asking the men in the room to roll. So she says, I'm on a team with all guys and she's comfortable with the guys who do compete, but she still tends to sit down and wait until someone comes up to her. She says, I think a big part of it is that I know I'll be embarrassed if a guy makes a big deal about not wanting to roll with me, and I have had guys make comments about not wanting to roll with me because I'm a girl or that they don't want to quote unquote hurt me. So let's break this down. So before we get into anything that I want to talk about here, the first thing that I'm going to say is the way that you are feeling is 100% valid, and I'm pretty sure that the majority of women in jiu-jitsu have felt the way that you felt at one point. This was something that I struggled with for years, a lot longer than I like to admit. And the reality is that jiu-jitsu is this really crazy sport, right? You are just all up in people's business, people that you don't know, really big, sweaty guys, right? As a woman, it's really uncomfortable, especially when you first start and you're not used to it. Even when you're a couple months into it, a year into it, it can still be really uncomfortable. And then of course, a lot of women have dealt with past traumas, and being so close and intimate with another male can really bring up and bring to the surface things that some women have dealt with in the past. Jiu-jitsu exposes a lot of things in our life, and it's not always fun and games, and it's not always black and white. It can be very intricate and it can be quite complicated sometimes. So I just think that all of this stuff is really good to talk about, but the main thing that I wanted to get across right in the beginning is that you are not alone and you are totally in the right for feeling like this. It is so normal. So now let's address the comment that I feel like a lot of us have probably gotten before, of men telling us that they don't want to roll with us because they don't want to quote unquote hurt us. So I think it comes, for the most part, I think it comes from a genuine place. I don't think any man who's training in the room wants to hurt us, right? So I do think that comment, for the most part, is genuine, but sometimes where the issue lies is that men who make that comment and don't want to roll with you, it's because they either don't know how to adjust their training to fit a role with you, someone who's smaller, somebody who's weaker. It means that they don't know how, or it simply means that they don't want to. And in the moment, it sucks, right? If someone says no to you, that they don't want to roll with you, it's kind of like a little punch in the chest, right? And then especially if a guy does it and he's saying it simply because you're a woman and he doesn't want to hurt you, it doesn't feel so great in the moment. But let me also play devil's advocate just for a moment. In jiu-jitsu, we always say that you don't have to roll with anybody, right? You can say no to anybody. And a lot of times that's geared towards women, giving women the right to say no to anybody. And that's great. We shouldn't have to roll with anybody that we don't want to. But if we're telling women that, we should also be giving that freedom to the men as well. No one in the room, male or female, has to roll with someone that they don't want to. And it sucks if someone says no based off of just who we are, our gender. It doesn't feel great, but I'm kind of just in this place where it's really not the biggest deal in the world. There's other people to roll with. For example, I had this one experience recently where I was talking with one of the guys that is always at my gym, and I've never trained with him before, which you will very soon find out why. We were just talking about training, and he openly said that he chooses to not roll with women. He has no interest in training with women, and that's because when he's rolling, all he cares about is that competition mindset. All he cares about is going 110% with other guys that are more his size. And I stood there and I said to him, I was like, really? Like, really? But the more that I thought about it, you know, it's okay. I kind of understood where he was coming from. I have the opinion where you can learn something from most people in the room, and it is good to roll with people of different sizes. But if your main focus is competition and your main focus is going hard 95% of the time, I understand the viewpoint of wanting to roll with people that you can go 110% with. The more I thought about it, the more I kind of understood it, and I didn't really see it as something offensive. So if someone says no to you simply because you're a girl and they don't want to hurt you, most of the time they probably just don't know how to roll with you. Maybe you're newer. If you're a new white belt and you're significantly smaller than them, they might not know how to adjust their power, how to adjust their strength and their techniques to meet you at your level. And maybe one day they will, right? We all have room for growth. I can guarantee that when I was a white belt, I was probably not the most fun person to roll with, right? We're all a little spazzy when we start out, but the more you train as the years go by, you become a better training partner. So right now, that specific guy, he might not be the best training partner for you. Maybe one day he will be. Maybe one day his perspective will change. But for now, it's okay. You know, there's other people in the room to roll with. Before we kind of hit the next point, I want to bring up a comment that a guy left on one of my recent videos, and I thought it was a really, really great perspective. And I think as women, sometimes we put a lot of the blame on men in jiu-jitsu, right? And it's so easy for us to say, and I'm not blaming anyone because I do it all the time. It's so easy for us to just be like, oh, you know, this guy is so big and this guy is so strong and the guys don't want to roll with me and I'm always left out. And it's so hard being a woman in jiu-jitsu. And it definitely is. But I feel like I've come to this place where I try to take a step back from my womanhood and I try to look at it from their point of view as well. So listen to this comment. I thought this was really great. So he says, to any of the ladies out there, I would like to say that if you're wanting to roll with a guy, please ask us, especially if we don't know one another well. Sad to say that the way that society is going, men are worried about being made out as creepy for approaching women. And that translates onto the mat as well. Once I know you well enough, I'll ask you to roll because I'm comfortable with the fact that you know I'm not trying to quote unquote hit on you. But until then, I'm probably going to make you approach me first. Alternatively, I might approach new people and ask them, is there anything you want to work on? Not necessarily ask for a roll. Don't be afraid to do the opposite and ask somebody to help you with something even if you don't want to roll. Overall, you'll meet a lot of great training partners, way more good ones than bad ones. Just keep showing up. We should all strive to make one another better. Even though it's not a team sport, we all should want to make the best team possible. I thought that was such an amazing comment, and I think it sort of opens the thought process of men struggle with things too. It's not always us women that are going through it all the time, right? Like there are situations that men have to deal with as well. So from the men's side, they may not ask us for a couple of reasons. We may be left out for a few reasons. It could be that they don't know how to roll with people that are a little bit smaller than them. Maybe they're just awkward and they don't know how to interact with women that they don't know. If you're a brand new woman on the mats and they have absolutely no idea who you are, they may be hesitant to be in a really close space with you because they don't want to do anything to make you uncomfortable. So I do really like that point of us as women having to step out of our comfort zone and taking that initiative. I think it's really important that we do that. Let me give you a specific example. So like I said, this is something that I've struggled with for a long time, asking asking anyone who I don't know, asking them to roll. And especially if I was the only woman in the room asking the guys to roll. I would always feel inferior. I would always feel like I had something to prove. And overall, it's just not a good feeling. So one specific time, this was when I first joined my current academy. I was maybe there for a couple of months. I don't quite remember, but I was pretty new. And I remember it was an afternoon class, it was no-gi, and I was the only girl, and it was a bunch of guys that I didn't know, and it was probably maybe the second round that I set out because I didn't have a partner, I wasn't asking anybody to roll, and nobody really knew me, so they weren't asking me to roll. And my coach comes over. Now, my head coach is Mateus Lutez, and if anyone knows who he is, that man scares me to death. He's such a good coach. But he's so intimidating. He scares the living daylights out of me sometimes. He's so intense. He gives a lot of tough love sometimes. So he comes over to me and he was like, you know, Kimberly, if you don't ask the guys to roll, you're not gonna get your training in. And it was simple as that. That's all he said. He got up and he left. And I sat there and at first I was a little offended. I'm like, you know, why don't you care? Like, why don't you make the guys come and roll with me, you know? I had to get out of that victim mindset and be like, you know what? You're right. I don't know these guys. They don't know me. I'm sure they would be happy to roll with me, but maybe they feel uncomfortable asking me to roll because maybe they don't know if I want to roll with them. So, you know, I picked myself up and I asked guys to roll. And, you know, now a lot of the guys in the room are some of my favorite training partners. And I think it's just so important that even when we're intimidated, even when we're scared, pushing forward, getting that courage and pushing ourselves further out of our comfort zone and really taking that initiative because you never know who might become one of your favorite training partners. So it's not always so easy to deal with, especially when you don't have a lot of women or any women at all. I'm pretty sure the person who messaged me, I think she said she's the only woman that trains. Hopefully that also means that the guys have gotten to know you a bit, but I understand that it's not always so easy and it is very intimidating to be the only woman in a room full of men, especially when there's no guys in there that you know. Even now, if I go to a class, maybe like one of the fundamentals where not a lot of the upper belts that I'm friendly with, if they're not there, I kind of look around and I'm like, I don't really want to train. There's no women here. There's no upper belt guys in here that I know and that I train with and that I'm friends with. Like, I don't really want to be here, you know? So I still deal with that, but if you ask someone to roll that you've never trained with before and they say no, don't be embarrassed. Honestly, it probably has more to do with them than it has to do with you. And I don't know, you just never know what could happen. Maybe any guy that says no to you, maybe one day they're forced to be paired up with you for whatever reason, and maybe they find that they actually do enjoy rolling with you, and maybe their whole perspective changes and you guys become some of your favorite training partners. You never know what could happen. With stuff like this, there's never an easy solution. So the best advice that I could probably give after all of this is, and I say this all the time, just keep showing up. It really, truly just all comes down to continuing to show up for training and continuing to put yourself out there and to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Taking that initiative. It could be a situation where they say no and then you feel kind of crappy, but you move on and you go and ask somebody else. Or maybe they do say yes and you find that you actually hated rolling with them, then never roll with them again. Or it could be really positive and you are afraid to ask this guy to roll, he says yes, and then you find that he's an amazing partner to roll with. You never know what could happen, and sometimes you just really have to put yourself out there, keep pushing out of your comfort zone. In my experience, in my personal opinion, it does get easier. Now, you know, I don't have a problem asking guys to roll, but it gets easier because the more that you keep showing up, the better that you get at jujitsu, the easier it is to roll with all different kinds of people. The better that your jujitsu gets, the more confident that you get on the mats, the more confident that you get in general. So when you're faced with situations that maybe when you first start may have really affected you, you can kind of just brush it off your shoulder now. It all comes with experience and it just all comes with time. And I'll end with this last little point. If you feel like you are noticing a pattern in your gym where guys don't roll with women, you know, none of the guys want to roll with you, or you just start to feel some kind of vibe from the guys where it almost seems like an annoyance that they have to roll with you and it's a pattern, you can always talk to your coach. And if they're a good coach if they actually give a darn about their academy and every single person that's in the academy, they will listen to you, they will be open to what you have to say. If action is needed, they will address it in the best way that they can. So always feel like you can go to your coach. And if you feel like there's just people in the room and no one is open to rolling with you, and you're constantly feeling like you don't belong, and then you bring it up to your coach and your coach dismisses you, then that's definitely time for you to find a different academy, because I promise you the majority of schools are not like that. There are really great schools out there that will make you feel welcome and a part of the team. And if your school doesn't, then it's definitely time to find a new place to train. So I hope this video was helpful to you who asked this question. I hope it gave you a little bit of insight on, seeing things from the other side, from the other perspective, but also knowing that what you're feeling is totally normal and it's valid. It's just all a learning experience, and all of these situations will only make you better. If you guys have any other insights on this, I would love to hear it. Leave a comment and let's keep the conversation going. This is a topic that I think we will just always talk about, like I said earlier in the video, because people will always be dealing with this. So I just think it's always good to chat about. If you have any specific situations and examples of what you've been through and how you got through it on this specific topic, then leave a comment and let us know. Give us all a little bit of encouragement, and that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and until the next video, I will see you guys next time.